new hams with the hobby and answer questions about operating procedures, terminology, equipment, antennas, or other questions. This is a directed net, so do not transmit till net control directs you to do so. So let's take check-ins from any licensed ham with the privileges to operate on this frequency. First, we'll look for any mobile check-ins. If we have any mobiles, come in. Hearing no additional mobiles, do we have any other additional general check-ins? If so, come down.
KJ5, IIU, checking in, listening in, enjoying the weather.
KJ5 IIU, W5ARJ. Got your check-in, Robert. Any other check-ins? Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 check-ins. That's great this evening for this group. First of all, I sent announcement to I think everybody who listens to the net. Maybe not to Sean. I don't think you were on the list that I sent out in a hurry this afternoon. But I had an email about a de-expedition to that island out between Thailand and Sri Lanka that starts March 10th. That's VU4AX. Running from March 10th to March 20th, and they'll be on 10 meters for any of your techs, and they'll be on all the other bands for all your new generals. Another announcement, Keith upgraded to general class this evening. KJ5JAO is now a general. And Sharon Buss, Phillips 6YL, Pastor Tech license this evening, and then Pastor General license. So I think everybody we've had in our ham classes in Jasper is now a general class operator. I was checking on the International Space Station. Anybody who wants to listen tomorrow on their downlink frequencies, there are 4 passes in daytime: 8:59 a.m., 10:35 a.m., 15:30 p.m., and 17:06 p.m. That is 5:06 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. So they're 145.800 is the downlink frequency you listen on 2 meters for.
International Space Station, in case you missed it.
Okay, that takes care of that. Do we have any other check-ins for the net? If so, come now.
Hello, hello.
Okay, Philip and John had questions about an RF choke on a 2-meter J-pole antenna.
Hello.
I don't hear either one of them to ask
Good afternoon.
questions.
This is the 6-1 training net. It's on a repeater local to me.
Tonight to cover the stage of World War II and Ham's involvement in World War II communications. Following the start of the war, there was a service called the War Emergency Radio Service, WERS or WERS. The War Emergency Radio Service was a precursor to the Civil Defense System and to Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Service, which is also called RACES in the United States. At the start of World War II, the United States Congress had suspended all amateur radio activity throughout the country. WERS was established by the FCC in June of 1942. That's just 6 months into the first year, or 7 months into the first year of the war, and they established the WERS at the insistence of the ARRL. WERS, or WERS, would remain in operation through the end of World War II in 1945. WERS was to provide communications in connection with air raid protection and communications during times of natural disaster. WERS licenses were given to communities and not to individuals. One of the requirements for individuals to participate in the WERS program was to hold an amateur license. The frequencies they used were in the 2.5 meter band, and that was 112 to 116 megacycles, as they called it then, and the 1.25 meter band, 219 to 225 megacycles, which portion of that is still in use today is that 1.25 meter band. That's the 220 megahertz band. Another interesting service during World War II was the LSPH licenses. As a result of the American Women's Voluntary Services training courses in radio carried on during the war, there was a new influx into ham radio. The LSPH, meaning Licensed Since Pearl Harbor Members. In 1942, one New York AWVS group graduated 66 new YL hams. YL, of course, stands for young ladies, and if they get married, they're referred to as XYLs in ham radio. And this is from an article in, 1945, CQ Magazine, August 1945. One W2 LSPH was Ann Gray. Ann learned telegraphy in 1917 and was a high-speed operator during World War I. And this is interesting. Then she switched to International Morse code in 1941. And their two codes are slightly different. The 1917 code would have been the same as the one used in the 1800s, and several of the letters elements are different. Then she switched to International Morse code in 1941, and graduating with Ann from the AWVS class was her daughter Gloria, another W2 LSPH licensee. Both in turn taught code to other radio aspirants. The other LSPHs served as teachers and still others as cryptographers, electronic technicians, radio researchers, and skilled operators. This story was told by W8TAY, Anita, in an article titled YL Operators Introducing the LSPHs in CQ Magazine for August 1945. In addition to the licensed YLs, many girls and women learned about radio for the first time through their war jobs and later became hams, such as Fern Floyd, who worked in a radio tube factory and later became W7KGE. Helen Douglas taught radio code classes during the war before she became W5LGY. Jean Williams learned code when she was an operator in training with the Alberta Provincial Forestry Radio Service. After marrying VE7ALE, she learned about ham radio, and while he was overseas in the Canadian Army, she worked for a commercial broadcast station. She became VE7YL in 1946. Just an interesting short article there right at the end of World War II from CQ Magazine. Licensed since Pearl Harbor, this referred to those who passed their exams between the U.S. entry into World War II, which would have been December 8, 1941, and the end of the war. After the the war ended, they could get their own individual call signs and get on the air. Just an interesting bit of ham radio history there.
WB5CYX repeater.
If I recall correctly, there was no suspension of ham radio activity during the Korean War because technically it was not a war, it was a United Nations police effort, and did not affect ham radio communications, as I was told, and I believe that to be correct. So, any questions about those two articles? If so, come on.
Control, this is KJ5FG. I'll comment on the Korean event.
Go ahead.
Recently, I was talking with a Army buddy of mine that had spent time, and he's more or less my age, spent time in Korea. And because the conflict has never ended, he himself and the generations of people that have served in the military and gone to Korea are still considered Korean War veterans.
Oh, correct, yeah. But technically, since it was not a declared war, but a United Nations police action, I think is the correct term for that, commonly called the Korean War, it did not affect ham radio operations stateside. You know, I had an ROTC instructor heavily involved in hand-to-hand combat in Korea with some interesting stories I like to tell at one of the class get-togethers. Okay, that's all I've got for tonight. I mentioned the International Space Station passes in the daytime tomorrow, 8:59 a.m., 10:35 a.m., 15:30, which should be 3:30 in the afternoon, and 17:06, which should be 5:06 in the afternoon. Their downlink frequency is 145-800, and their waking hours, generally according to their webpage, is 2:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. our time, because they work on Moscow work time.
Control, this is KJ5FGL again. I do have a question or two on the J-pole if there are no other topics.
Okay, go ahead.
On the choke, and then from the end of the choke down to the connector, can you discuss aspects on that?
Yeah, those chokes perform a service by blocking common mode currents that are usually carried back toward the rig from the antenna on the shield of the coax. So you make a lasso for 2 meters. It's about 5 inches in diameter with 5, 6, 7 turns of coax. That's one reason to use RG58, the small coax used in mobile antennas, because it's easier to handle and wind into a lasso that size. And then I use 3 or 4 cable ties to cinch it in place. I position mine just below the shunt of the antenna, and then run whatever coax I've cut left. Usually I cut a length of coax about 10 or 12 feet long, and I'll have a pigtail hanging down 3, 4, 5 feet, and to that or connect a coax like Mini 8X to that connector and run that back to the rig.
Okay, on that antenna that we worked on last Thursday, I'm gonna check everything on that, and it might have been part of the problem was after the choke, I might have had too much coax left over.
No, that wouldn't be a problem because you've got to run the coax onto the rig, and you can have 25, 30, 35 feet of coax to get from the antenna to the rig. So that length, if you had 10, 15, 20 feet left over, that's no problem.
Okay, and let's see if there's anything else. No, I think that covers all the questions I was going to raise on the J-pole. So looking forward to Thursday.
Okay, and you said you checked with the antenna analyzer and found that the lowest SWR you could get was 5 to 1, and the frequency readout at that 5 to 1 SWR reading was 130 megs. So there are a couple of things you can do there to see if you need to shorten it. What I would do, I think you said your long side from the shunt up the longer side was 58 inches. You might try trimming 1 inch off and take an SWR reading, see if that brings the frequency up from 130 toward 140. And if it does, try cutting off a half inch and a half inch and see if that will get you closer to 140, about 146. And probably wouldn't have to adjust that feed line attachment point much, if any. I have made J-poles for the aviation band and got them 1.1 to 1 at 120 megahertz, which is right in the middle of the civil aviation band. And my attachment point was, instead of 1.25 inches up from the shunt, I think was 1.5 inches, just a quarter inch more. So that didn't require much adjustment at all. But anyway, I would try that. Cut 1 inch off that long side and take another reading and see if you move up, if your resonant point moves up in frequency.
Okay, I will certainly do that. And are we actually going to have a get-together on Thursday, or is all that kind of on hold?
Thursday, and then we'll probably take a 3-week break and then pick up with a new class.
Okay, that's good to hear. I'll make sure that my schedule is up to date, and looking forward, like I said, for Thursday.
We could discuss that, or we could keep going with the weekly meeting. Or change to a weekly lunch and let everybody get together and go over what's going on with everyone.
I like both ideas, and between these classes, meeting weekly and doing a different antenna project might be kind of fun for people.
Idea. So we'll just keep meeting. It wouldn't be a class for 2 or 3 weeks before the next class started. Okay, we'll talk about that Thursday.
That's all I have. This is KJ5FG, all clear.
Thank you, John. Well, let me see if we have any other check-ins. If so, come now. Hearing none, let's check with everybody, see if they have any comments about what they've been doing or what's going on. K5CPN was in and out. N5VKO, Johnny, can you hear us okay?
Hear you, but I don't know how well. Well, right here I should be hitting it real well, but I'm fixing to go down in the hole. No comments, just congratulations to everybody that got their general tonight. N5EKO back to net control. I'm probably going to lose a repeater pretty quick.
Well, just like Punxsutawney Phil, he saw a shadow and got scared and ran back underground. We'll have 6 more weeks of winter, and the weatherman's saying in a week winter will be back. So enjoy this warm weather while we have it. Ryan, KJ5HGC, W5ARJ, any comments?
WB5CYX repeater.
This is KJ5HGC. Not a whole lot tonight, really. Just been playing on some 10 meters a little bit lately, a little bit more than I was the last couple of weeks. So just been playing back and forth with 2 different antennas and having fun with that. But that's all I've been up to. Back to you.
Okay, good. Is that 10-meter antenna working good for you?
Yes, sir. Both of them are actually working pretty well. My vertical decided to start working pretty good with the propagation we've had lately, so that was a nice improvement. I got some DX contacts with that, both sideband and FT8 both, and then of course the dipole still is amazing all around, and it outperforms the vertical by far. So I still fall back to that as we get to the gray line and really start playing with that propagation a little bit with the dipole a little more. But yeah, overall it's been pretty good. It's been a fun couple months learning about it and playing with it.
It's certainly interesting to have 2 antennas like that, a vertical and a horizontal antenna controlled by the antenna switch, so you can immediately switch between 2 antennas and see if propagation is better on one than on the other. W5JAH used to use 2 antennas like that, and let's see how he set a meter. Ran 2 receivers, or he coupled them and fed both antennas into one receiver, and noticed that as signals faded out of the horizontal antenna, they would get stronger in the vertical and vice versa. Interesting effect. Okay, Ryan, thanks for checking in. Clear with you. Mel, any comments? WB5R&D.
Well, thank you, Terry. Good evening to you and everybody on the net. This is WB5R&D. And Brian runs the net for us on 444-800 at 7:30. So everybody's welcome to check into that net. And very interesting net tonight, for me at least, Terry, about the topic. And that OSS movie is, you can type in OSS LAD and on YouTube, and you can, at least I found the trailer, so you can see that there. I'm going to watch it tonight there. And let's see, what else? I can't think of anything else, but I thank you for running the net, and congratulations to everybody that got their tickets, and go have a lot of fun. 7-3, W5R&D.
W5R&D, W5ARJ. Well, good evening, Mel. Have a great week. Enjoy the weather. And we'll catch you next week. Keith, KJ5JAO, any comments?
KJ5JO here. Anybody happens to have a big fat load resistor on the order of 50 watt power resistor, wire wound, I don't care if it's wire wound or not, that can handle 50 watts or up, and possibly a half ohm up to an ohm would be, I'd be hoping that somebody's got one that they could loan me for a little bit. Anybody got one?
Well, I don't see one. I may just get that power supply back from you and put a rig on it and check and see if that voltage drops off on the one that has the mounting bracket on the side of it, and then do the same with the big one, the big Astron, and see if that is cleared up on its own, or if it's still dropping voltage with the rig running.
Well, there are two adjustments in each one of these, and one of them is for the crowbar circuit, and the other is for the pass current circuit, which is probably what's falling out right now. In any event, we'll look into that later. So thank you, Net Control, for running the net, and the historical is very interesting, and KJ5J is clear.
Okay, we'll see you Thursday evening then at the class. And congratulations. Clear with you, KJ5FGL, John, W5ARJ, anything else?
KJ5FGL, no other comments. It was grand to see those two do so well on their tests, and with that, I'm clear.
Hey, good evening. We'll see you Thursday evening. Sean, how about you? KF5UCO, W5ARJ, any activity on 630 meters?
This is KI5UCO. Yeah, just messing around with it here or then. I'm doing 80 meters tonight on Whisper. 630 meters. I think I've gone to the extent of my power levels, which is almost coast to coast. Here lately, I've been mostly messing around, operating pedestrian mobile. Been having a lot of fun with that, all the way down to 40 meters. I'm trying to fabricate an antenna that will be efficient enough on 80 meters to make it effective to carry around on a backpack. But so far, no luck. I'll probably be looking at at about 1% efficiency on anything I could build. So the fact that it's working on 40 meters is astounding to me.
Indeed, that's a fascinating part of ham radio and those power levels and those bands. Did you look at Dave Stinson's web QRZ page, AB5S, and his radio rig out of a PBY Catalina, that World War II seaplane that carried the low band equipment on it, the RAX receivers, the LAX transmitters, I guess they were, that ran down to about 150 kilohertz.
I did check that out indeed, and I must say I am jealous. I like that old stuff, and well, it would honestly be better suited than anything modernly produced that's not produced by your own hand as far as 630 meters goes. So it is kind of a struggle. I'm working on my transverter to get up to 5 watts. After that, I'll be building an amplifier. I'd like to run about 500 watts input with this antenna. Should put me at about 4 watts effective isotropic radiated power. So at some point, I'd like to have a much higher power. Maybe even 200 watts would do me just fine. Put me at about 1 watt maybe. And apparently that would be enough, being that my very, very, very low power levels is already doing pretty well. Back to you. This is KI5UCO.
Yeah, that's an interesting band. Dave works for Comet Industries, which is a subcontractor for KCS Railroad, and they maintain all of the railroad's communications equipment. Everything in the trains, everything in the control towers, and digital communications and all of that. So he was always fascinated with World War II radios, particularly aircraft radios. He's got a great collection of stuff. We had a special event station at Barksdale Air Force Base, 8th Air Force Museum, set up under the wing of their B-17. And he brought out his B-17 radio equipment, both the command sets that the pilot and co-pilot used to talk with, the little command sets, as well as the radio operator set, which is a liaison set, the BC-348 receiver that Mel was talking about, and then their HF a transmitter that had drawers, tuning drawers you pulled in and out to change frequency bands. The radio operator kept in touch with the base, monitored their frequency for any radio traffic. Usually they were maintaining radio silence, but the radio operator would listen to their assigned frequency on HF, and the pilot and co-pilots had the command sets to talk to the control tower when they were within range of that. Interesting setup with the in-fed long wire antenna running from the tail up over the cockpit for the HF operations.
WB5CYX repeater.
I think that BC 609, 603 transmitter was also a low-band transmitter. I'll have to double-check that. I've never used one. I've seen a couple in operation, but I think it would cover those low bands like that radio transmitter set up used in the PVY.
The P5 R&D.
Good, Mel.
Hey, Terry, I didn't want to interrupt there, but just want to interject something there. I was reading something about when they shut down the amateur radio communications, that some of the operators were using landline communication. Do you remember anything about that?
Not specifically, but I've heard mention of it, and like I said, the landline and the international Morse codes had slightly different elements. A few of the elements, like the letter C, it was explained to me by Ham, who knew both codes, and he thought the landline code had a more musical or more melodic rhythm to it, and because it was a click-clack sound using that sounder, when the magnet would pull it down and let it up, it had a click-clack sound for each letter. Pierce Graham was showing me the difference between the two, and it was easy to read on a sounder than to read off the air, because if you think of an upbeat and downbeat music, some of those letters had a spacing that was like not the spacing between two elements, but half the spacing between the elements, or space and a half spacing between the elements, and it was easier to read on a sounder than it was off the air.
Very cool, very neat stuff there. Yeah, when I first got into amateur radio, a friend of mine, he was running one of the military amateur radio Mars nets, and he had an ART-13 Collins. I think his Collins had an automatic tuner on it. He was a real big CW operator, but neat stuff there. Go ahead there. I'll be listening on side. WB5 R&D.
The Collins ART-13 was a 200 or 250 watt transmitter that I had one for a short period of time. It had 6 or 9 pre-tuned channels. It was a mechanical tuner, and if you switch from channel to channel, it had a remote control head. So if you went from channel 1 to channel 2, the thing would auto-tune to the antenna attached to it, and that was used on the B-29. I knew 2 or 3 people who flew on B-29s, and they were telling me about that. So it had an upgraded radio system from the B-17 in Europe to the B-29s in the Pacific.
neat stuff there. Very interesting. Y'all go ahead there. I won't be listening to B5R&D.
Chief engineer at the TV station I worked at when I was in high school was a B-24 pilot. I think he was in the Pacific, and his radio operator was a ham radio operator too. Bill Bush was a ham, and his B-24 pilot, and his radio operator was also a ham. And the radio operator rewired their Collins ART-13 to where he was getting almost 1,000 watts output of it. Bill was telling me about that. They found you'd have, with that, both of them being hams. And Bill asked him if he was ready to transmit a message back to the base, and the radio operator took his mechanical pencil out and ran out about 2 inches of graphite lead and held it near the antenna terminal on the ART-13, which is one of those push terminals where you pushed it in as spring loaded and you stuck the antenna wire in and let it go. And he pulled an arc out of that thing. He said it was 2 to 3 inches long. He said, "Yes, sir, ready to transmit."
Ain't that neat? Ain't that neat? Yeah, that is cool stuff there for sure. Yeah. Yeah, there's I don't know if you've seen it or not, Terry, but I would highly recommend it. It's on YouTube, and it's the name of it is The History of Personal Two-Way Portable Communications, and it talks about the two-way radio things that for like taxi cabs and stuff like that. And the interesting thing about it is the guys that were planning it were ham radio operators. They knew their stuff. And there was one deal in there where they were having trouble with a cab company that was having overlapping interference with another cab company. So they turned the antenna. It was a ground plane antenna, and they turned it upside down. And just
A history of land mobile
numerous things like that.
I've seen that
And the thing I
video.
liked about it was all ham radio operators planning all these frequency things that have led up to where we are now. So that made me feel better about it. Anyway, W5R&D.
Change the radiation pattern of the ground plane doing that. And you mentioned the OSS movie. A good friend of mine is Keith Melton. He donated his huge collection of espionage tools and equipment to a museum he helped build in Washington, D.C. called the International Spy Museum. And if you're ever in Washington, be sure and tour that museum. Keith said he had a personal collection of, among other stuff, of a little over 50 spy radios, including that I sent the training film out, the OSS TR-1, the transmitter receiver and power supply unit that special agents used to transmit encrypted messages from Europe to England. But anyway, if you're ever in Washington, D.C., be sure and tour the International Spy Museum there. Okay, clear with you, and let's check with Robert, see if you have any comments, Robert, about what's been going on. KJ5IIU, W5AirJ.
No comments, just enjoying the show tonight. And this is KJ5IIU clear.
Hey, great signal tonight. Do we have any other check-ins for the net before we close it? If so, come now. Net at 8:41 almost. Appreciate everybody checking in. We'll see some of you Thursday night at the 7 o'clock ham class at the Jasper Methodist Church. And the rest of you will see back here hopefully next Monday at 8 p.m. So everybody have a great week. Enjoy this warm weather before winter returns next week. 73, and we'll turn this frequency back to normal amateur use. This is WA5 Alpha Romeo Juliet, clear.